back, friends. In the time you were away, we got cold molding. For those of you who don't know, cold molding is the process of adding layers of wood to increase the thickness of the hull. Although our plans don't call out that it's necessary for our boat, after our visit to Sam Devlin's shop, he convinced us it would be a good idea. So we have our original installment of 1/2 inch plywood, and we're going to add another sheet of 1/4 inch plywood by laminating them together with epoxy. Now, some of you math nerds might be asking, why didn't you start with 3/4 inch plywood and be done with it? Well, unfortunately, 3/4 inch plywood isn't very flexible. So, you have to start with 1/2 inch and then add 1/4 inch until you reach your desired thickness. For us, that's just 3/4 of an inch. But reading Devlin's boat building manual, there are several large boats he builds that have 3 or 4 layers of 1/4 inch plywood added. I'm going to get started here by dry fitting all the pieces to make sure everything fits. It's about right here that I realize even the 1/4 inch isn't going to bend enough, so I'll have to cut it into strips. I'll screw them in place so I can measure where to start the cuts. So we've repeated that for the other side, and then we're just going to add all the rest of the panels to check the fit. This looks like some kind of Star Wars helmet from this angle. Now that I'm satisfied all the parts fit together as they should, we take all the panels off and drill deep holes to give the air somewhere to escape. This makes sure we don't get any air bubbles under the laminate. Last thing before we glue those panels on, we're going to add a layer of fiberglass over all the seams. Having this laminated layer of glass will give a huge bonus to the strength of the boat. Now, I hate to do this to you, but just like I mentioned, that everyone drops their camera, everyone also doesn't realize that their camera battery died. So we're going to do a little time traveling to when I did realize my battery died. And hey, check out this cool visual. If you're like me, and you're not a fiberglass expert, you're going to have bubbles. Go ahead and just cut them out so you don't end up with air pockets. The pieces should be small enough you won't be compromising the strength you're gaining by having the rest of the glass there. Anytime you have cured epoxy, you need to lightly sand it before you apply the next layer. So when you're planning your glue up, it can help to do it all at once so you don't have to do extra sanding like me. If you have the time, you can lay the fiberglass strips and immediately lay the cold molding so you don't have to sand at all. Luckily, my camera was charged for the rest of the cold molding process. I even got some help from Marion and Haley. First, we roll epoxy on both the new panel and on the panel it will cover. Then we put the panel in place and clamp it down by using a matrix of screws to make sure every inch is held flush against the interior panel. There are a lot of screws. How many? Well, I think I bought 4 boxes of 100 each, and I reused them several times over the whole boat. We tried this squeegee method of application. It seemed like this way there was too much epoxy, and we had excessive squeeze out compared to the roll-on method. But either way, you should get similar results. As if adding insult to injury, unlike building a house, all those screws you put in, well, they gotta come back out. I hate anything that feels like rework. Then it's one panel at a time. Start at the bow and work your way aft. And hopefully, you're lucky enough to have a couple lovely assistants. We took advantage of the wet on wet trick for the intermediate and shear panel reinforcement. Wet the glass out, then put your panels on right away. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time for more boat building adventures.